Well, speaking of entertainment, it is time to talk movies and entertainment. Maybe a little sports,
The Mark
maybe a
Thompson
little
Show.
music. It's all coming. He comes and goes on a rainbow. That's right. Culture Blaster, Michael Snyder, everybody. Hello.
Hi, and happy weekend, Kim.
Happy weekend to you. Happy July
weekend.
4th. Yeah.
It's coming up. Well, happy weekend to Albert, and happy weekend to our pal Mark, who I hope recovers from whatever's ailing him ASAP, man.
Yeah, me too. I know. Horrible. I mean, on top of everything else, you're already dealing with grief, and now you're dealing with a horrible sickness. Poor guy.
Yeah, well, if there's one thing we know about Mark, it's he's indestructible. He's coming back. Don't worry about it.
That's right.
Hey, speaking of what we now know that all it takes to win a presidential debate is to deliver a seemingly unending barrage of lies, juvenile insults, and ridiculous facial grimaces. I mean, the only reassuring thing about what I saw last night is that apparently anyone can truly run for president and maybe win. So, maybe
I know.
Kind of disheartening.
It was very disheartening. It was very disappointing. Thank you for that.
Yeah, well, I do what I can. It's interesting.
You're supposed to lift me up, not bring me down, my friend.
I don't know how many people are going to change their vote on the basis of what we saw last night. Because, again, policy-wise, when you could hear him muddle through, Biden, made sense. The prevarication and the theatrics and gesticulation of the orange ogre didn't impress me. But let's keep on rolling forward. We got to keep pushing. And how about if we talk some movies, get your mind off politics?
Thank you. Yes, let's do it.
And instead get your mind on the end of humanity as we know it via alien invasion. Okay. Kim, I was thrilled and excited by the incredibly tense John Krasinski directed sci-fi movie, A Quiet Place, which starred Krasinski and his real-life wife, Emily Blunt, as a couple who, with their young offspring, are hiding out in a rural area and trying to survive an alien invasion. And to talk about the nature of the aliens, other than to say their anatomy was pretty bizarre, would be to undercut A Quiet Place if you haven't seen it. And, maybe everybody knows what it's about and what the issue is with the aliens, but let's just move on to say that if you were equally excited by A Quiet Place as I was, you might have gone to see Krasinski, the filmmaker's slightly less impactful sequel, A Quiet Place 2. Not bad, but not as powerful as the first one. But, obviously this is a franchise, or, the studio considers it as such. So now we have A Quiet Place Day One, which is a prequel, right?
Is this the movie, or is this the scenario where you can't say anything because the aliens will hear you and then they'll get you?
Thank you for spoiling the Quiet Place franchise for anyone who hasn't seen it. No, it's called The Quiet Place because if you aren't quiet, your place will be death. It's not really too it's not too obscure. It's pretty evident what the situation is. So this prequel shows what happened on the first day that the invaders arrived in the massive urban setting of New York City, rather than down the road in a backwater. And Krasinski's only contribution here, other than being a executive producer, is co-author of the story. He handed screenplay and direction duties to Michael Sarnowski. Now, this guy wrote and directed the kick-ass 2021 drama Pig, which gave Nicolas Cage one of the best roles of his career. So I trusted that this was going to be somehow worthwhile, and Sarnowski does not disappoint. And he does do the bold move of depicting the horror of an otherworldly horde of insectoids taking Manhattan, and does it through the survival moves of terminal cancer patient Sam, played by Lupita Nyong'o. I think she won some awards for 12 Years a Slave. She was significant in Black Panther and also in Jordan Peele's Us. So we have Sam, and she encounters a stranger on her journey with her therapy cat, Frodo, by the way. And this stranger is a frightened young man from the UK, played by Joseph Quinn. Joseph Quinn, if you don't know him, is the British actor who played American fan favorite rocker dude Eddie Munson on Stranger Things, and is going to play Johnny Human Torch Storm in Marvel's upcoming Fantastic Four reboot. So he's got a little heat behind him. And speaking of Sam's pet, Frodo, A Quiet Place Day One is as tense as a cat. Seriously. Sam is only in Manhattan as part of a theater-going day trip with her fellow residents of a suburban hospice when she's facing her own end of days prematurely by virtue of this invasion. In the middle of the show, hell rains down from above, and we're off and running. A Quiet Place Day One is a terrific action movie and a narrative about perseverance and sacrifice in the face of overwhelming odds. I thought it was really, really good. I thought it was better than A Quiet Place 2. And if you've never seen any of these movies, you could go see this cold and appreciate it if it's your sort of film. It's in theaters.
Cool. Would you call it a kind of an action movie, or would you call it a horror movie?
It's a sci-fi action movie with the horror of aliens that are running wild, and they really take no prisoners, these creatures. You don't want to mess with them. Why
is it always for July 4th movie weekend we get movies about aliens? We had Independence Day. Like it's kind of our thing as Americans.
Well, with Nyong'o's character teaming up with Quinn's character, this is Dependence Day. They really need to stick together or they're not going to survive. It was
cool.
Worth the popcorn. Let's put it that way.
Nice.
Okay, another New York story that focuses on two people, but one that is very different from A Quiet Place Day 2, while being, in my opinion, easily as worthwhile a watch. Daddy-O is a very compact narrative, primarily set in a cab on a trip from JFK to an apartment in Manhattan. You know, I really thought this was terrific.
Is that Sean Penn?
Yeah, there's a sharp script. It's cleverly shot. And the two characters are played by Sean Penn, who is really, really, not playing the sort of role you would expect from him, and Dakota Johnson, who I think is underrated as an actress. This is a terrific showcase for her. She delivers a wonderfully nuanced and impactful performance as this young woman who is in some ways a kept woman and wrestling with her status as she heads back home after being with her family in the Midwest. I was totally buying into this thing. Director Christy Hall, she has it's like a bottle episode of a TV show. It's pretty much all in this cab, but I was never bored. I was always riveted to the screen by the virtue of the performances by the two leads. And, the conversation was the kind of conversation you want to have with a stranger, one that you walk away from feeling like, wow, I learned something. I interacted with somebody that I normally would not have interacted with, and I got something out of it. And that's the way I felt about Daddy-O, which maybe doesn't have the greatest. Sorry?
The whole movie is in a cab. The whole movie.
For the most part, yeah.
Wow,
and it's not boring in the least in my book. Christy Hall, who directed, also wrote the screenplay, and I thought it was incredibly promising. I sure want to see what Hall has in store on her next project. And again, don't sleep on Dakota Johnson. Some people kind of consider her a Nepo baby. She's the daughter of Don Johnson and Melanie Griffith, but she's actually a better actor than either her mom or her dad in my book.
Wow. Okay.
I think people only got to know her from the 50 Shades of Grey movies, and that's kind of a disservice. She was wonderful in A Bigger Splash, which was a Luca Guadagnino film with her and Ralph Fiennes and Tilda Swinton, which I think people should seek out, and she's really good in this as well.
Daddy-O. All right.
All right, let's go from the sublime to the what? A Family Affair, which is available on Netflix and I think in theaters, is a frothier take on the idea that was presented by the recent Anne Hathaway movie, The Idea of You, wherein a beautiful older woman, here played by Nicole Kidman, gets involved with a famous younger man, here played by Zac Efron, throwing her daughter who in this case is played by Joey King, into a quandary. Only this time, again, the magical MILF, played by Nicole Kidman, is, I found this maybe a little more plausible than the Anne Hathaway team up in The Idea of You, although I think that's a much better film, I'll be honest with you. So we have an award-winning writer who lives in Malibu. She's a widow, and she lives essentially with her daughter, Zara. And Zara is the personal assistant to a hotshot actor, super obnoxious, played by Efron. He's Chris Cole. He has his own franchise where he plays a superhero, and the movies have been getting increasingly ridiculous. And he's a womanizer. He takes advantage of his fame to bed a parade of women. And Zara has to kind of deal with the aftermath of all the breakups that occur. And the last thing she would want is for her mom to get involved with this kind of seemingly amoral pretty boy. And yet it happens. And I guess, hijinks ensue. Kathy Bates plays Grandma here, who was the mom of Brooke, Kidman's character's late ex. And, obviously, if you're going to get Kidman and Bates, you're going to get performances that catch your eye and hold your interest. And Zac Efron is a much better actor than I ever thought when he sprung from the High School Musical franchise at Disney. He's done some really good work, and here he does what he can with what he has. But, this is product, pure and simple. Richard LaGravenese is the director, the screenwriter, who I guess she had the best of intentions, was Carrie Solomon, and she co-wrote this with LaGravenese. It's product, pure and simple. It's on Netflix. It's a skosh above a Hallmark movie, but that's as much credit as I'm going to give it.
Oh, wow. That's a bummer, because this seems like my kind of movie, but okay.
No. It's inoffensive, kind of. I mean...
yeah, it's just it's a folding laundry movie. You don't have to pay much attention to it. There's no deep thinking involved. It's just kind of... Yeah.
Kim, you nailed it. If you're going to be folding your laundry,
this is the movie for you.
Okay,
oh my God.
I'm going to deliver as good a film as we're covering this weekend. And I thought that it really merits attention. I hope people go to see it. It's called Fancy Dance, and it stars Lily Gladstone, the Native American actress who was lauded for her performance in Killers of the Flower Moon.
I like her.
This is a really terrific lead role for her, and shows her range in what is a finely tooled drama that deals with Native American life on the reservation, and I mean modern Native American life, and also relationship situations, family matters, particularly when people have made mistakes over the course of their lives, and those mistakes impact their relationships and their access to family. So she did a hell of a good job playing an imperiled but determined member of the Osage tribe, married to a callow white guy in Oklahoma during the 1920s. That was Flower Moon. And here she commands the screen as a somewhat criminal but big-hearted lesbian member of the Cayuga in Oklahoma during the 2020s. That's right. She can play an Osage and a Cayuga. What range? No, anyway, all kidding aside. This character she plays, Jax, has taken care of her niece, Roki, another good performance here, and this one from Isabel DeRoy Olsen, by living on the Seneca Cayuga Reservation in Oklahoma. And she's done this since her mom, Roki's mom, disappeared. Roki's mom was an exotic dancer, and she's been missing for 3 weeks. And Roki wants to meet up with her at the powwow in Tulsa, which is a major gathering of the tribes. And there is a mother-daughter dance competition that Roki wants to do with her mom. And so she's hoping that her mom shows up at the powwow, despite her being absent for 3 weeks. Unfortunately, Jax and Jax's grandfather, played by Shea Wiggum, think that in all probability, Mom is gone. And is she dead? Is she missing? Was she kidnapped? We don't know. And that's part of the mystery and the wonder of Fancy Dance, as Jax basically has to kidnap Brokey from her grandfather and grandmother's care and try to get to the powwow. And at the same time, desperate to find out what happened to her sister, Jax is phoning her uncle, who is purportedly going to, assist the FBI and the local cops in finding out where the missing woman is. It really held my interest for the entirety of its run. It's pretty lean at an hour and a half, and kudos to director Erica Tremblay, and Mitsiana Elise is her co-screenwriter. I give high marks on all fronts to Fancy Dance, which is available to stream on Apple right now.
Wow. Okay. So it's accessible. We don't have to go to the big movies to see it.
You do not have to do that.
Okay.
But I thought it becomes a bit of a road trip. It's an exploration of Native American heritage, and it's a beautiful character study delivered in high style by Lily Gladstone.
If the poster is anything like the movie, there's a lot of beautiful scenery and a lot of beautiful cinematography. Well,
there is a lot of coverage on the reservation, and then the road trip is America's highways, particularly in Oklahoma. I won't say this is as glistening a piece of filmmaking as Killers of the Flower Moon, which was set in Oklahoma back in the day, but it does have its visual pleasures, and the most significant pleasure here is Lily Gladstone's performance, which is rich and heartbreaking, and she is the real deal.
Awesome. All right. What else is there?
Let's close out with The Devil's Bath. Yes, The Devil's Bath.
Sounds like a bath I'd love to take.
Well, it's a period horror film set in 1750 Austria. So it's in Austro-German, or whatever you want to call it, but it's more of a psychological drama that implies a measure of supernatural doings without actually being about the supernatural per se. It's got a lot of that rural folk creepiness. By the way, that's the German title, Des Teufelsbad, the Devil's Bath. Okay. Anyway, there is no demon with a pitchfork here, okay? There's just good old-fashioned, quasi-religious human lunacy. So, Kim, if rural period grime and violent madness with the occasional blood-curdling scream are your jam, this is for you.
No.
The Devil's Bath is something you want to dip your toe into. All right, so here are the basics. A woman named Agnes, who is very religious, marries her intended, but she is obviously not a woman that era is going to embrace. She does not like having to just cook and clean for her husband, who, by the way, is not very responsive to her. I think her husband kind of prefers his buddy, a fellow man living in this rural area, but kind of unspoken. But Agnes is obviously dissatisfied. And this is an area that has been in the shadow of a horrible killing done by a young mother who destroys her baby, reveals that she's done this thing, and throws herself on the mercy of the church that doesn't take kindly to child killing. And it's it's kind of an ugly situation. And that woman's fate basically colors Agnes's fate through The Devil's Bath. So she hates where she is. She's miserable. She's unhappy. And she starts to basically go a little bonkers. And that's The Devil's Bath. And this is an era that was marked by people getting vilified for committing suicide to the point where they would be more than willing to commit a crime to basically force their end of life.
Oh, wow.
So This movie is directed and authored by Veronica Franz and Severin Fiala. And again, this period in history is kind of filled with ignorance and ugliness and people kowtowing to religious orders. And that is all encapsulated in The Devil's Bath. I thought it was fantastic, and it was my cup of tea. But, it's going to make Mark would not watch this. I don't recommend that you watch this.
I won't. But if you like this kind of movie, this is definitely something on the list, right?
Oh, it's chilling. And it is, by the way, beautifully shot in the Austrian hinterlands. And so from that standpoint, as a cinematic effort, it's quite lovely. But what isn't lovely is Agnes, her situation, her fate, the way she's treated by other people in this area, and what her life amounts to when she agrees to marry and move in with her husband, and essentially her husband's disapproving mom. So, yikes. Anyway, The Devil's Bath is, in fact, available in theaters and also streaming right now. So you can watch it at home if it's the sort of thing you'd like to see. And by the way, Anja Plasage, who plays Agnes, is very compelling. She's the center of the movie. And like Lily Gladstone in Fancy Dance, she's a reason to watch the film.
Where is it streaming?
The usual platforms for video on demand. So I would recommend people do a search if they're interested in The Devil's Bath. If horror is your thing, by all means, seek this one out, because it's it's like what we like to say, good of kind. You gotta like this kind of film, but it's well done.
To recap it, A Quiet Place Day One is where you started us. You said this is really good and it is worth the popcorn. And so, it's probably going to do really well this weekend. Daddy-O, you liked it. You said Dakota Johnson shines. A Family Affair. You called it a Netflix product. You said it's just a skosh above a Hallmark movie. Fancy Dance held your interest. You said high marks to Fancy Dance, and you said Lily Gladstone shines in this one. And then lastly, The Devil's Bath. You said it's fantastic, it's good of kind, and it's in theaters and it's streaming as well.
Yeah, and again, you have to like kind of dark, dolorous horror to get on board with The Devil's Bath. But hey, there's nothing I like more after the misery of what we witnessed last night than to get even more miserable in Austria back in the day.
Couldn't get any worse, my friend.
It couldn't. I do want to also point out that guess what just dropped yesterday? The entire third season of The Bear, one of the greatest TV shows of the past 10 years, starring Jeremy Allen White as Carmy, the top drawer gourmet chef who's pulled back into his family life in Chicago when his brother dies, leaving him the family sandwich shop. By series 3, Carmy is trying to turn it into a high-end restaurant befitting his own status as a gourmet chef. Ayo Edebiri is back. The great Ebon Moss-Bachrach is back. And by the way, speaking as we did earlier of Fantastic Four, Ebon Moss-Bachrach is playing Ben Grimm, the Thing, in the new Fantastic Four. So, we got a little callback to something we discussed earlier because of Joseph Quinn's future as part of the Marvel Universe. But all that aside, The Bear has delivered some of the most impactful dramedy, action, and heartfelt family interactions that I've seen on TV in a long time. Last season, Jamie Lee Curtis gave one of the best performances of her career. Olivia Colman was a guest star. I haven't watched any of Series 3, but obviously I'm excited about it being back on FX and Hulu. The Bear.
And FX and Hulu. I thought it was on, Hulu. That's why I haven't watched it, because I don't have Hulu and I'm too cheap to pay for it. But when it comes out on other networks, it's on my list of things to watch.
I believe you can watch episodes on FX. I think they'll trickle them out as opposed to the full episode dump that you can get if you do have a Hulu account. But I'm thrilled about The Bear. I'm also, pretty excited. My Giants, took 3 or 4 from the Cubbies, and I think the big bad Dodgers are quite challenge to surmount for the boys in orange and black. Hopefully, I will be able to get out to Oracle Park this weekend. I am in San Francisco. I'm going to a pride party that a friend of mine is throwing. Gotta, awesome. Get with the program here in San Francisco when you're back here. I hope you have a lovely weekend, Kim.
Thank you. Maud says, thank you, Michael. I think I'll go with Sean Penn. So you've got her weekend lined up for her. Are they doing a special pride thing with the Giants this weekend?
They did a pride celebration already. There was, they had like rainbow logos and what have you. And, it's, how can I put it? It's inescapable when you're in San Francisco in the month of June.
Sure.
So, get with the program, people.
That's right. That's right. Michael Snyder, thank you for all the great reviews. Thank you for being here. Always love your segment. I hope you have a great weekend and go Giants.
All right. Take care. And thanks for listening, everybody. Bye.
Bye. He comes and goes on a rainbow. It's Michael Snyder, everybody.